Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Jeff, how the hell are you doing?
WrestleMania week, baby. We're doing this. We're finally here.
We're finally here.
We got Raw. We got NXT. We got, TakeOver, whatever they're called. We got SmackDown. We got 2 nights of Mania. We got all kinds of wrestling shows this weekend. It's Christmas for a wrestling fan. There's no other way to put it.
It's funny you say that because I was just this morning, I was watching WrestleMania 5. Hogan, Savage.
Yep.
No idea why, but I was watching that, having my morning coffee, and I just thought, I hope that people have something in their life that gives them as much enjoyment as this shit gives to you and I.
It really does.
And I don't care what it is. Maybe it's a TV show. Maybe it's a band. Maybe it's a series of books. I don't know. It's like when I see people geeking out over Harry Potter. I'm like, It's not my thing, but that's so cool that they get that much enjoyment out of it, or Comic-Con, or whatever else it is. But I feel bad for people that either don't have something like that or are too cool to have something like that because they think, they give a shit what other people think. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't running around, to sorority parties in college saying, hey, I still watch wrestling. Right. But at the same time, you get to a point in life where it's you just don't give a shit. Your friends are your friends, you don't care.
Right.
And it's
ride or die. Yep.
Yeah, I own it, man. It's wait, Tom, you go to wrestling? Yeah, I do. I've been to 8 of them. And I'm hopefully going to go to another 8 at some point. I love this shit. I enjoy the hell out of it. And
one of the things I was reading was we complain about wrestling a lot. Yes, you and I have a podcast where we rip on different things and stuff like that. But also, if we had a football podcast, what would we be doing? Complaining about things armchair kind of quarterbacking some of this stuff. It's not that we dislike the product, but we are going to critique it. And so that's why we're here. That's not why we're here in this moment, but that, being wrestling fans, it's perfectly fine to kind of critique and wish that we were getting different things. And everybody fantasy books, we all want to see that stuff. That's why we got the WWE 2K games, so we can do legendary matches and shit like that. And so so yes, if people want to judge you and me for being wrestling fans, there might be more of us than they are of them. You never know. And so that's okay though. I'm not going to stop watching wrestling, even if it's highs and lows. I'm always going to be here. So,
well, let me tell you something else that I think is kind of funny too, which is that, I always laugh when wrestlers will bitch about fans. They'll be like, oh, these fucking marks, this and that. Oh, they wanted my picture or this or that, But guess what? They mark out for other shit. You understand that, right? The same wrestler that's complaining about fans does that for his favorite football team. Yep. And they'll paint their faces and sit front row and, fanboy over, the star quarterback. It's just so ironic. It's just so funny. We all have forms of entertainment that we're, complete marks for.
I grew up in Detroit. And so if there's one thing I'm allowed to critique, it's the football team there. So and props to Matty Stafford too, for leaving and showing that he knows what he's doing. But, there's always going to be complaints. There's always going to be stuff like that, but that's okay. There's still lots to go back and revisit that we don't have to complain. And today's match is one that I think that falls into this category.
you mentioned the video game.
Yes.
So of course I was just curious, and we both have PlayStation 5s.
Yes.
I knew this, but like this tells you how little I've been playing PlayStation. Dude, it's like $70 for these games now.
Yeah, man. Welcome
to 70's the standard edition.
Yep.
80 is the cross gen where I guess you can play 4 or 5.
Yep.
Okay. There's a deluxe edition. I guess you just get it 3 days. You would have got it 3 days early for $100. There's an NWO one for 120,
which you get different characters. Yep.
And then and then the PlayStation 4 version is 60.
Yes.
I mean, this shit's expensive.
Well, welcome to the video game, which for the uninitiated here, Tom, this is his first system in a long time. And so, yes, it used to be $59.99. Now for a PS5 game, it's $69.99 for a lot of them. Yeah. For your AAA big titles and stuff like that. So yeah, it's welcome. Yeah. And WWE, and 2K is bad about it. Like they are one that they will nickel and dime you on this stuff. Same with like EA, like they'll nickel and dime you, but but this is the wrestling. We got to pay for the characters. You got to pay for the downloadable stuff. Like, welcome to video games in 2022, Tom. Yep.
Man,
they're live services, as they call them. Yep.
Here's the moral of the story. Everything's just expensive now.
Yep.
It's funny because like the person that'll say, "Oh, I don't golf. That's just too expensive." Well, they're buying fucking $120 video games.
Right. Yeah. You buy 2 games. Like you buy game. Yeah. All that stuff. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, nothing's cheap anymore. Traveling's not cheap. I mean, the only thing that's cheap is if you sit at home and you watch Netflix and you share a password with somebody.
Oh, even that the price went up. A month or two ago, whatever it was,
exactly.
13. So yeah, it's just.
But now you kind of need multiple streaming things because I mean everything's so segregated. So it's like, I love watching The Office. Oh, now you need Peacock. Oh, I want to watch wrestling. Half the shit that I feel like I watch on ESPN, you need the Plus app for.
I'm looking at here. So I got 1, 2. I'm looking at my iPad. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 streaming apps. Plus some other weird ones too. So yeah, like in a folder, like just
there you go. It's over $100 worth of streaming services.
You know how we can save our listeners a few bucks though. Like everything's expensive. It doesn't have to be though if you're getting a good product.
And if you want to be a sexy boy.
Oh my God. Yeah. If there's ever a week to be a sexy boy, like this is the week, you can't deny that. So reminder for everyone before we get into this match, use our promo code at manscaped.com of payoff 20. That's payoff 20. It gets you 20% off and free shipping, everything that they've got. Like you can throw it all in the cart, use that code. It's 20% off. You can throw one thing in the cart, payoff 20, free shipping, 20% off. Doesn't matter what it is, how much you get. It's absolutely worth it to make sure that you're getting those deals. We'll try and save you a few bucks. Tom and I are no bullshit about this stuff. We use it. We're not like, some people out there, like we're not trying to just hawk shit on you or it's like, hey, so we're like, we use it. It's absolutely worth it. I threw out all my old stuff because it's garbage. Like use this stuff because it's absolutely worth it, from the lawnmower to the weed whacker to chapstick, body wash, whatever you need. They've got it. Using our promo code payoff20 at manscaped.com.
Your balls will thank you.
Absolutely.
It's time for the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So, dude, it's pretty obvious why we're covering this one. This is the crowning achievement of, and you'll get into it, but really a long build to get to this point. I don't know if you're ever going to see this again. Okay. And what this is a, 18-month build, give or take, of this guy being the man.
Yep.
Okay. So King of the Ring, he becomes, the guy that's, going to get the rocket ship, but it was a pretty slow burn and there were a lot of twists and turns and there was, a broken neck, but there were those 2 great matches with Bret Hart. But I mean, this was like a multi-year. I mean, when Steve Austin was white hot, most popular guy in the business, he still wasn't even champion yet. It took so long to get him the belt. and again, I don't know if you'll ever see anything like this. So by the time we get here, March 29th, 1998, WrestleMania 14, Steve Austin is the biggest star in the business. He's selling 1 billion T-shirts. We added Mike Tyson, who was red hot at the time, and you knew who was going to win the match. But man, it still was just, it was just such a great build to get to the Austin era has begun. And so really love that. And you haven't seen much of that since. And you really don't see very much of it anymore. Certainly not this year, right? We kind of got it with the Drew thing, but then it went away. The Bryan thing happened by accident. Kofi, before you knew it, lost the title and kind of went back to being a mid-carder. So truly making the star, the big moment, the crowning WrestleMania thing. I love it. And this was just picture perfect. So fun show, WrestleMania 14 in Boston, 20,000 in the building. We start out with the Tag Team Battle Royal, which I'll always remember because it was the debut of LOD 2000, which was the Legion of Doom with Sonny. And so they defeat a bunch of other tag teams to win the Tag Team Battle Royal and get a number one contenders match. I have no problem with a Battle Royal for the tag team like this. I thought that was kind of cool. Taka Michinoku defeats Aguila.
Yep.
You're my accent guy, man.
I got you, man.
For the to retain the light heavyweight championship. Triple H is going to retain his European championship against Owen Hart in 11 minutes. Mark Mero and Sable defeated Goldust and Luna Vachon in a mixed tag match, which was pretty fun. I remember Sable hitting the power bomb. It was pretty awesome. Hey, maybe someday we'll get Brock Lesnar and Sable in a mixed tag match.
I don't know why. We'll never know why. I wish she would just come back. Just one night, come back. Maybe that's how you build a new story or something like that.
Dude, a Royal Rumble with her coming out it'd be so fun.
Even if she comes out with just Brock just to come out, she'd get a just huge pop.
Babyface Brock with Sable, how good would that be?
Exactly. Yep. Oh. It'd be huge. It'd be unbelievable to pop.
She probably looks a lot different now, though.
That's okay. Hey, you know what?
The mental image we have of Sable in our mind.
Time has not treated Sunny well either, but that's okay. I still love her. So whatever.
I know. I will always love Sunny, but
yep.
The Rock defeats Ken Shamrock by DQ, 4-minute match for the IC title. Not their best match, but they did have some great matches. Really, really good feud. Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie defeated the New Age Outlaws to win the tag titles in a dumpster match. That was a really, really fun match. Just a really cool match. And obviously the next night on Raw, New Age Outlaws get their tag titles back. DX is formed. Awesome. The big Undertaker Kane semi-main event. This was when they finally squared off. Undertaker would win. Not a great match. Those two, they just weren't. They're just two big guys. Just a tough thing. You're never going to get a great match out of them. And then Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Mike Tyson as a special enforcer. Not a lot of great wrestling, but a lot of good wrestling on this show, and that, the Attitude Era, it had a lot of good wrestling, not a lot of great wrestling, but a lot of good wrestling. And this show was kind of, no different than other stuff. Storyline standpoint, Jeff, how do we get to Steve Austin finally getting his title opportunity?
Yeah, so like you said on this one, there's a lot happening, but we're actually going to start. This was January 1998, just a couple months before this one. Actually, Austin at that point, winning the Royal Rumble. And you had Shawn Michaels actually retaining the WWF Championship at that event. And so you had Shawn actually beating The Undertaker in his match, the casket match. And then you had Austin actually entering the Royal Rumble at number 24. Kind of look this up because I was curious myself. He got 7 eliminations to win this one. And then he eliminated The Rock, who entered at number 4. And so, like Tom said, I think too, it's a good point to stop and remind everyone, we were starting to see a little edgier, like Tom said, the rocket we kind of knew was on Austin. We had Austin 316. Like, things had been building for quite a bit here, especially after this, of like what's going on with WCW, and they're feuding with them as well too. And so this was really like 1998. Like, wrestling was hot as shit at this point. Like, there was a lot happening. There was a lot to get excited about. You had these big names that was larger than life characters that it was just really cool to kind of see. And so after this Royal Rumble, though, it was a week after, you had Vince McMahon revealing that Mike Tyson, the boxer, former boxer, would be the special guest referee for this event. And that kind of with that, you actually had kind of a pull apart as well too, that Austin kind of flipping off Tyson. He wanted to fight him, saying, really just some back and forth at this point. But you had the switch where from special guest referee to enforcer is what in this match instead. And so something to be aware of. The as we've seen with, I had almost kind of forgotten that this is how it plays out sometime. But whenever they announce like Ronda's back or anything like that, and then you get the Sports Illustrated picks it up, Bleacher Report, you got ESPN, and all these different groups are talking about it. The same thing happened in 1998, not on to the degree because it was just a different world at that time, but they got a ton of mainstream coverage. Same reason, because Tyson was coming over. And so same as you would have like nowadays, like all these tweets they'd show and all these people being excited and things like that. Like, it got huge news because because doing my homework on this one as well too, this like taking place, this was after probably 8 months after you had the Tyson Holyfield ear biting incident, for those of you that may or may not remember, where in the ring, Tyson got disqualified because in the third round, he actually bit Evander Holyfield twice on both ears throughout the course of the match. And so, as crazy as that all was, like, talk about as bright of star power as you could possibly have at that point. But also, like, Mike Tyson was, let's be real, he was not to be fucked with at this time either. Like, he was still Mike Tyson that we remember. Like, you see him, like, kind of like I feel about Brock nowadays. Like, you see Brock kind of walking on the street. Like, I feel like he would absolutely beat my ass. I still feel that way about Mike Tyson, but also like, dude, in 1998, like 1997 or 1997, 1998, like, he was not to be messed with. And so, so there was still some aftermath of that and kind of what was happening through the summer. But he wasn't really boxing because of that was going on. And so whether that made him available for this kind of, who knows, behind the scenes marketing of, hey, like, let's keep your star power bright, whatever it was, Tyson's involved in this one. So anyways, like you said, you had, it was February 2nd, actually. So just after Royal Rumble, you had Austin getting into it was actually a match against Road Dogg. And you had Degeneration X. And again, we, kind of forming up with them as well too. Austin tied in the ropes, kind of getting beat up by Degeneration X. It was actually Cactus and Chainsaw Charlie coming to help him on this one. You had Austin stealing the belt from Michaels, trying to get him, but then you had Degeneration X getting involved, the New Age Outlaws and things like. So there's a lot of back and forth with these guys. You ended up actually with a non-sanctioned 8-man tag match. It was at No Way Out of Texas in your house. You had, at this point, Michaels actually declined to be in the match. And so because of just they're building the story at this point, they don't want to give it to us. They didn't put him in there. So this one, there's actually a 3.5-star match at this In Your House, Texas. It was Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie, Owen Hart, and Stone Cold beating the New Age Outlaws, Savio Vega, and Triple H. And so fun little match there. And so, but giving you the story with Degeneration X and things like that. And so, you had Tyson appearing in early March as well, too. This was, of course, when him ripping off his T-shirt, revealing that there was the Degeneration X T-shirt underneath. And so he had that alliance with Degeneration X going into this match. And so kind of building that story up of that, building it against Austin, really. He's not going to be able to be successful because all of this with Tyson and Degeneration X and these things happening. And so you have that. And so, yeah, just some good stuff happening there. And then you had it was actually Austin calling out Vince and attacking him because at the time he called Tyson the baddest man on the planet. So Austin, again, laying some tracks for the eventual here. Austin and McMahon kind of getting into a little bit and said like he actually made Austin fight or beat The Rock Austin fighting The Rock. It was actually episode of Raw as well too. So there was just, things happening, like a lot of really good story pieces here. Like I said, not getting too much into the Austin getting the rocket on him, but this story itself, you had a lot of different players. But again, as we talked about last week, like it makes sense from the standpoint of they did not let Michaels and Austin kind of have the one-off. Like, thank God they didn't do like a match on Raw with these guys. Even I think it was super smart keeping them out of the tag match as well too, or that 8-man tag match, because it does keep them apart. It keeps the build fresh. Like we don't see it. Like, we don't want to see it on some random pay-per-view. Like give it to us on the big show. So we got all kinds of good stuff going on there. And so, yeah, just really exciting kind of getting into this. So we're going into it with, you've got the WWF champion Shawn Michaels against Stone Cold Steve Austin. You've got, and then of course the special enforcer, which you'll see him around ringside as Mike Tyson for this match.
Man, this is just a main event.
Yeah.
I feel like, so often now, and maybe it's because we have too many shows. Maybe it's because there's too many top guys. I don't know. But it's like, how often anymore is it like, hey, this is a main event. This has been built up. It's two huge stars. Like you'll see when these two face off, it just screams main event and not in a thrown together scripted way, but like in a heavyweight prized fight situation.
Yep.
All right. 2 hour main event starting in 2 hours and 17 minutes into a show. How about that?
Shocking.
I know.
After what, we were 3.5 last week or whatever it was.
Yeah. So 2 hours, 17-minute mark, WrestleMania 14. Jeff, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
Got the live band.
Missed that. Yep. Always cool when they do that for anybody.
Awesome.
Yep.
Shawn Michaels is the most honored champion in history.
Everything about this
in history
had
to win
Shawn
every
coming in
major
live,
Wrestling Federation title.
live DX
He's been
band.
the champion 3 times. Tag champion
Got his own
3 times. Intercontinental champion 3 times. And the European
Everyone on their feet.
And listen,
Everyone on their
here in
feet.
Boston.
Got
Stone Cold.
Mike Tyson, who's just as far as your celebrity enforcer. Austin looks so intense.
He's got his work cut out for him.
JR
He can get through Shawn Michaels.
So where are we for this
If
one?
he can
Boston?
get through DX.
This, right? I mean, it's just like, this is a main event. Look at this. Everyone's standing.
Yep. You got the cameramen all around the ring.
And this was just peak Shawn Michaels, like annoying little piece of shit.
Yeah. So there was, and I figured I'd wait till the match to talk about it. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff here. Yeah. And so one thing I did not say was that Michaels was in, like, his back was destroyed. And so, like, almost shouldn't have been wrestling this match destroyed. And so
absolutely should not have been wrestling it.
And so, but like how he's moving around, like you would never know it. And so, but he was Austin flipping him off. Yep. His back was in extreme pain at this point. You'll kind of, there are moments in this match too, where you'll kind of see, you almost feel like he does slow down a little bit because of it, but you really got to be paying attention and know it to notice it. And so, but that was, and there was all kinds of rumors. I was reading stuff like Michaels didn't necessarily want to do the job here. And like, the finish was debated a lot, kind of how you do that. And so, kind of what happens after the bell. And so, just a lot playing into this behind the scenes.
Well, I think he was just in denial of the fact that, all he really knew how to be was a pro wrestler, and he wasn't going to be able to do it for a while, if ever again, because of his back injury.
But Michaels full speed off the ropes, like just taking a clothesline from Austin. Yep.
And these two had wrestled a number of times before. I mean, even like early in Steve Austin's career, and he was a heel and Shawn was a baby face, and they were familiar with each other. But again, we know Shawn's super hurt. We know that these two weren't exactly on best of terms. So I'm curious how the actual match is. Oh.
Yep. Oh, so Michael's flat on his back, getting tossed to the outside here, kind of hitting Triple H on the way too.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about Tyson earlier and what a badass he was. A really good podcast to listen to. Chris Jericho, and this was maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago, had a guy on who was talking about, because I guess it was like the 30-year anniversary of the Buster Douglas defeating Mike Tyson fight.
Yep.
So Jericho had someone on talking about it. It's just really interesting. I mean, there's so go back and listen to that if you haven't already. It was really, really good. So that was a fun one. The other one too, did I text you about this? This was like maybe from a month or so ago. Brock Lesnar was on Pat McAfee's podcast.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. Yep.
Did you listen to it?
I did listen to it.
Dude, it was great. I mean, and you could tell like Lesnar was just really comfortable. Dude,
yeah.
Really, really good interview.
Yeah. And it was like surprisingly good.
Lesnar came across far more likable than he probably even wants to.
Right. Yeah. No, right. Absolutely. But I get it too. Like when he was talking about like, I want my privacy. Like I just want to go live in the woods and shoot shit like that. Hey, I get it. Like, so you got you got Austin fighting Triple H at the top of the ramp, if you will, or just the walkway at the DX band. And so China's up there too. Michael's catching up to him. Yeah. So these guys just kind of brawling.
This was during the era where like your main event was typically like 20 to 25 minutes. And usually, you'd have like some stuff like this outside the ring. I mean, really good. That's the thing about the WWF, even in their like, not best days. The one thing that they almost always did was give you a good main event, a good 20, 25-minute match to end the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit different now with filling more time and not selling pay-per-views. But even like when WCW's kicking their ass, WWF still typically had better like wrestling main events.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one too. I was looking back. I don't know if you probably don't remember this match at all, but this is one we should probably get on our list. This was a Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin tag match from 1997, where they took on the British Bulldog and Owen Hart in a 4 1/4 star match. Do you remember that at all?
I don't.
It was on a random Raw, like back then. And so that's what I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit and see what I can find. But yeah, because I was just kind of looking up different matches. Cause like you were talking about like these guys having a history together. Like this was I'm saying this match when they were in a tag match was 1997 as well too. And so like almost a year before this match taking place. And so I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, I'm going to kind of dig into it a little bit. Maybe we'll cover it on a future episode of kind of what's going on. But yeah.
Well, I was looking, I was curious, like the top Steve Austin matches of all time. Because I mean, I feel like he's probably one of like the biggest stars that we haven't done a ton of matches on yet, have we?
We really haven't. Yeah.
So I was curious, his top matches ever. He has 2 5-star matches. One was Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13.
Yep, got to be Bret.
And then there was a War Games match in 1992 as well. And then third was the Steve Austin match. I'm sorry, the Triple H match, 3 Stages of Hell, which was a crazy match. The tag match, the Triple H torn quad match from Raw, which was a great match. That would actually be a really interesting one for us to cover. That was Benoit and Jericho against Austin and Triple H. Then the Bret Austin match at Survivor Series 96. Then the Dude Loves Steve Austin match. That was an awesome one. The 6-way Hell in a Cell match that we've covered from Armageddon. And then the Rock match from 2001, which would have been WrestleMania 17. And then the's a Benoit and Angle match in there to round out the top 10. But Austin, he doesn't get nearly enough credit for being a pretty damn good worker. Even after a broken neck, he was still good. I mean, he was more limited, but Steve Austin could work, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys, you got Michaels got tossed outside. He hit the announce table. You got Austin kind of working him over at this point. Yeah, it just got real physical at this point. You guys really going at each other.
I like the Shawn Michaels pants that are his Heartbreak Kid ones, but then with the X through them, X through the heart for the DX.
Yep.
Certainly love those.
Checking on it. We don't get this enough. Okay. Well, I mean, Roman choked out Goldberg, but you don't see the kind of the slow checking the arm anymore. Like it's just one of those lost things that we don't get nowadays in wrestling.
So
slowing the pace down. Yeah.
Interesting thing I heard maybe a month or two ago now, and I think it might have even been from before, but Freddie Prinze Jr., who obviously wrote for a number of years, he was on the WWE creative team.
Yep.
And he said the biggest problem between the past and now is just the magic just got out too much.
Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah. Yep. And I thought that was just such a great way of putting it. It's okay to know it's a work, but the magic's so far out that you can't ever put the toothpaste back in the bottle. And, it's just tough, it's just a lot harder to lose yourself in it than it was, even during this era, it was hey, Shawn, he may not want to drop the title. And we just had the screw job and what's going to happen? And he's a risk and, he's hurt, but what's going to happen? So, again, that you're not worried about Roman Reigns doing that now.
Mm-hmm. I've talked about it a lot on this show. I feel like the reality era, if you will, there is very much hitting Austin with the ring bell. There's very much a disconnect with them updating the product to be more 2022, and whether that's Vince old fashioned, whether that's they just don't want to change, whether that's, us, the average fan being 60 years old and not believing, the Fiend and all those kind of storylines, which I've said it before. I like a little supernatural in my wrestling. We don't really have much right now after the Undertaker is really gone. And so I feel like that's an area where you really could have, had something and you just don't. But I feel like too, they're reverting back to who was it that recently said, Tegan Knox was saying how even NXT, you look at it the women, it's reverting back to more of a Divas era type thing. They don't want these tattooed, brown haired girls and anything like that. They want these fit, good looking, perfect body, blonde girls being a part of the show. Not to say that there isn't other people, but that's coming from her. And so, but the big takeaway of being this Divas era product, kind of like NXT, you really wonder what it's going to look like a year from now. Same with the main stuff. It's hard to say. I don't see many changes. I did appreciate I think it was him that was actually quoted as Vince McMahon does not see any problems with the current product and thinks it's all perfect. And someone came out, I was do you really think Vince McMahon is sitting in meetings with the creative team saying this is great. I love everything about this. No, he's ripping everything to shit. And so to even say oh yeah, Vince thinks the current product's perfect. From a financial standpoint, he's probably got no fucking problem. He just banked another 50 million from the Saudi show, or 55. I saw a new number of 55 maybe. And so, but that, and props to him. I wish we could get Freddie on the show because dude knows wrestling. It's really great to actually hear some of it. I always kind of, when I see him, posted quotes from him and stuff like that, I always make a point to read it because he does have some really good insight into wrestling because he was there. He was in the room.
Yeah, no, he has a great perspective for sure. Well,
go ahead.
It's funny that you brought up the supernatural stuff. And to me, okay, the Bray Wyatt supernatural stuff or the Undertaker back in the day, it's so over the top that I don't mind it. I know it's entertainment. It's okay. I know Bray Wyatt isn't really disappearing. They turn the lights off and he goes under the ring. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. I don't mind supernatural stuff. What I do mind is I mind a promo that clearly is scripted, that someone's so focused on trying to memorize that they don't even feel any emotion around those words. That to me is more fake than supernatural.
Right.
Supernatural is just a special effect.
Right. And if you can tell a good story with those characters, I don't care. Like, I will suspend that. Like, I think part of the problem, and we have not talked about the Observer newsletters, like awards for this year. I'd have to pull them up, but like the worst kind of storyline was the Alexa, Bray, Randy Orton stuff. And so, why? Like, that should have been like, you've got like lightning in a bottle with some of that stuff too. And then even Randy has come out and said too, like, yeah, that shit was hard. Like I get why people didn't like that. And so, just so much of that. And then we stuck on Bray, but there is some other things, and we can armchair it. We talked about this last week or whatever it was, like, there's little tweaks that you and I would love to see, that even little things could make the product a lot better. And so the camera cuts aren't ever going to change. Like, we're stuck with that until Kevin Dunn is fired or dies or whatever. And so, like, there are certain, storylines now also, like, I feel like Austin Theory was getting a push. There are wrestlers I feel like that are getting a push that we don't probably acknowledge enough.
I had not looked at the Wrestling Observer Awards winners, so I just pulled them up. Yeah, because I'm kind of curious. I'll just quickly go through these. I have not looked at them yet.
Some of the bad ones are the best ones. I don't care about who won Wrestler of the Year, but make sure to scroll to like the bad storylines.
What do you think of this match so far, by the way?
So far, it's really not like there's a lot of action. They've got there's some technical stuff that's been happening. I think. Well, I do not believe it's a wrestling clinic by any means. They're not putting on a technical show. It is just. I think it's actually a fairly standard wrestling match to this point.
Yeah, me too.
Tyson not ever getting involved, kind of just shouting stuff from ringside.
So Wrestler of the Year, Kenny Omega ran away with it.
Yep.
Reigns was second. Oh, I didn't have it all pulled up. Sorry. Here we go. Okay, I got it now. All right, so Omega, there you go. I'm not going to cover all these because some of these awards I really don't care about.
Right. No, and that's fine. Yep.
So there's a Wrestler of the Year, and there's a most outstanding wrestler. I guess that's who's best in the ring.
He always does that. Yeah, it's a freaking mess. Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. He does fighters too. He's like kind of covers UFC, but I don't know. Tag Team of the Year, Young Bucks. Again, kind of ran away with it. I get it. No issue there. Best interview, MJF.
Yeah.
This was close. MJF, Kingston second, Punk third. They were all pretty close there. Again, I have no issue with that. Promotion of the Year, AEW.
Yeah, he gave a lot of high marks to that. Yeah.
No issue with that. Best weekly show, Dynamite. Yep. No issue with that. Best match, Bucks and then Penta and Phoenix in that cage match.
Yep, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Was it the best? I don't know, but
I was the best I saw. I thought it was great.
Yep.
Now, according to this, not one WWE match was in the top 10. I mean, I guess Walter had one, but not even main roster.
I got some of these here too. So I thought Feud of the Year was Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, which I could see that absolutely.
Yeah, I guess.
The best box office draw is CM Punk, and he said this is not a voted for award. It's based as it is on objective data. Which whatever. Is Meltzer known over the history of using very specific and objective data to come up with these things?
How would you call Punk the biggest draw?
Who knows, man? Who knows what metric they're actually pulling from? It could be fucking anything.
Well, here, okay, so has Punk even changed the TV ratings? Aren't they flat since he debuted?
They're up and down, like normal, like everything else.
I'm gonna say it's not like, hey, in the year since he came back or whatever, however long it's been, ratings are up 25% or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the crowds are the crowds. It's not like they're filling stadiums.
You got Austin with a slingshot on Michaels, getting a near fall there, 2 count.
Yeah, I Punk the biggest draw. I don't know. And then Cena second.
Yeah.
Omega third, Reigns fourth, Lesnar 5. I don't know, man. And then, like, to me, it's like, how do you define draw? Because I mean, they're getting, WWE's getting $50 million a year from the Saudis because of Brock Lesnar.
Right.
So to me, Lesnar might be the biggest draw. I don't know. So
you got worst major wrestling show, the more recent Survivor Series 2021, which, that was rough to watch. We did not enjoy that one.
We have a ref bump here, and I don't think there was any reason for one.
So you go, everybody. So these guys still brawling. Thoughts on this is the most disgusting promotional tactic. WWE firing wrestlers during a pandemic while setting record profits. Is that a promotional tactic?
No, it's not at all.
And you and I've talked about
that's a publicly traded company making a business decision.
And is it shitty? Yeah, but also it's right. We've talked about this a lot of you got to draw the line somewhere. Yeah.
And again, as far as the wrestler cuts go, 2 things. Number 1 is they had way too many guys under contract.
Yep.
Number 2 is if they are independent contractors and you're not planning on using them at all, or you have no TV time for them, aren't you doing them a favor by letting them go do something else?
Well, and some of them too, you heard the rumors were that because people weren't getting vaccinated, which, how many other companies out there fired people because they weren't vaccinated?
Plenty of companies were.
Well, no matter where you sit on that, you have to acknowledge that too, airlines and all this other stuff. You don't have to like it, but you know what? And they didn't acknowledge it on the front end either. You got Michaels up on the top rope now. Yep.
Here we go. Michaels measuring Stone Cold. And the elbow.
Big elbow drop.
Brought it to the heart.
Shades of Macho Man.
Second best elbow of all time in the business.
Yep, absolutely. So I do appreciate it because I was actually just having this conversation with my buddies too. So they gave
most underrated was my boy Ricochet.
Yep, I saw that.
I totally think so, man. I think he could be a big time star.
Most improved Tay Conti from AEW, which I really like her. And so also rookie of the year, which I agree with this, Jade Cargill, which I did not know this about her. She, even as of today, she's only wrestled 12 matches in her life. And so Sweet Chin missing it. Austin kick.
And Michaels counter. Michaels going for another kick. Austin, he got it. Mike Tyson in.
1, 2, 3, boom.
Champion.
Tyson with a quick count.
Stone Cold. Wait a minute.
Place going nuts.
Fans going ape shit. Yep. Oh, and this is the good sign days.
The Austin era has begun.
Austin era.
What a perfect line. Yep. To sum it up. Yep.
Yeah, that's right up there with the boyhood dream has come true. Just one of my favorites. I love it. All right, let's get into the aftermath.
Oh, it's time for the aftermath.
All right, so initial thoughts?
The match was it was fine. I feel the story outside and kind of what came after the fact is a bigger deal, not just in the moment, but in wrestling as a whole. I think
is this reaction.
Yeah, it outshines everything.
WrestleMania 14, and it's been done.
So good.
Yeah, the match itself felt it was uninspired, but that everything else about it was really good. And so because we know what's coming after this, so as it's kind of playing out, you got Austin holding a 316 shirt, tossing it to Tyson. Yeah, Yeah, you know what's coming at this point. So, yep. Tyson having fun with it too. Or holding up the shirt. Yep, there you go. And Michael's still in the ring, just kind of looking confused, but getting to his feet at this point. I don't normally, great storytelling right now. Just kind of looking at Tyson like, what the hell's going on? What are you doing?
God, you can just see Michael's like hunched over, like how bad his back probably was.
Yeah.
Michaels insulting Tyson. Michaels standing up for the baddest man on the planet.
Oh. Michael's poking Tyson's chest.
So good.
What a great sell. Oh, man. Michaels hit him, but Tyson hit him harder.
Wow.
And just dropped him. Great stuff. Yeah. Michaels just splayed out. That's funny. Okay. So what do we got in this one? Really, this was really the changing of the guard. And so in a lot of ways that you had Shawn Michaels, who for the longest time, he was the guy like, winning his championship 2 years ago at Mania, he was the star. And so now though, JR said it, like the Stone Cold era, like it was so much more than that too, because you had Brett was gone, Shawn was gone after this. Like there was no bigger star at this point. You had them really getting into the Attitude Era at this point. A little bit more like just a lot of things happening. And so, as we know too, that this was the start at this point too, WCW was beating WWE in the ratings. So then to get that, eventually to get through that and get to the point where that wasn't the case anymore. It took time, but Austin was a huge part of that. And so, you also had, of course you had Michaels kind of making appearances and things like that, but really, taking time and went away for a little bit. Austin, we know the career that Austin kind of had after this and what happened. And so you actually had Triple H kind of going after on the mic, like Shawn Michaels as well too. But of course, playing into this, talking about the Click as well too. And so that was a part of the story as well too. But with him really winning this event, like the Attitude Era was full force. And so it was actually too the next night that you had the rebrand started. You had the kind of the new logos, you had the new rings gear, you had the new belt as well too, and of the winged eagle disappearing, which is a great belt, but getting the kind of the larger eagle, you had the blue globe on it. And so, it only lasted for a couple of years, but really kind of starting over fresh with that. And so, and really it was really two, maybe at most weeks after this is when you finally had the Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin feud kind of, I say, escalate. And so, and then the beating of WCW in the ratings. And so, and really that was, the start of that happening. And so just it's greater effect on the wrestling world. Like, while I was not impressed with the match itself, like looking at the full story, looking at the payoff, like, is there better? I don't know. I don't think so, because of what it did for the wrestling industry as a whole is just incredible. Tom?
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. I think by any metric, there's really, kind of two schools of thought on who the biggest superstar of all time is, right? I mean, it's either Hogan or Austin. I think you can argue either way on who that is. So, Austin, without Austin, does Vince survive? I don't know.
I don't either. Yeah.
But, this, I mean, again, we romanticize the Attitude Era. And we forget that a lot of things during the Attitude Era sucked. So Vince McMahon doesn't have the money to pay Bret Hart. Vince McMahon's getting his ass kicked in the Monday Night Wars by WCW.
Yep.
Steve Austin is the reason that everything changed.
Yep.
Not Steve Austin and blah, 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 blah. It was Steve Austin, and then obviously the Mr. McMahon character and all that gave him a foil. But I mean, you see that crowd. This is right after Bret Hart left, and we thought, hey, they're screwed. And you see that crowd, and they're all there for Austin. There's nothing else on that show that drew a dime.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe Undertaker Kane, but the match sucked. Nothing else. You think Triple H and Owen Hart? The Rock wasn't there yet. LOD 2000. So Steve Austin was the whole reason, but it's no different. It's no different than Hulk Hogan was the whole reason for the WrestleMania era in the 80s and everything.
Well, and this was, like you said, this was a 3.25 star match on and that was the highest. Like the Chainsaw Charlie, Cactus, New Age was also 3.25. But I also did it. I don't think it needed to be a good match.
No. You knew who was going to win. It didn't matter. They got what they wanted. The finish was strong. The Tyson thing, it did what it had to do. It just wasn't a classic because Shawn was very, very hurt. Otherwise, it probably would have been, a 4 or 5 star match. It would have been a great match.
Yeah.
But, I look at this and, you look at Austin, you think about Hogan. It's a star business. It's no different than the NFL, right? People like stars. They want to watch Tom Brady. They want to watch Patrick Mahomes. All of entertainment is about stars. So that's why I understand that they want to make it about the brand. But, you look at what they're doing with Roman Reigns, and at least you're getting behind someone and trying to make a star. And he sells a bunch of merch and he moves the needle and he's fantastic. But why didn't you do that with McIntyre?
Right.
Why have you never done it with Rollins? Why didn't you do it with Big E? Why have you kind of done it, but kind of not done it with Lashley? Pick Lashley, pick McIntyre, pick Big E. I don't care who you pick, but pick a couple guys and just say, these are going to be our franchise guys. These are going to be our major, major stars. We think they can draw money. We're going to put them on, the Today Show. We're going to, make big stars out of them. We're going to have them headline pay-per-views like AJ, Orton, Edge. I don't even care who it is, but pick a couple guys that you're really going to build around. But instead, you have Reigns, you have Lesnar part-time, and then you have a bunch of B players. They're not B players, but they are in the fans' eyes because they're not stars. So I'm not saying that you have a Steve Austin on the roster, but try building. And then Steve Austin made The Rock. And they're just not doing that anymore. So it was great to see that. And Austin just fantastic. And again, you're right. The match didn't have to be great. It did exactly what it needed to.
And we could talk about that. So PWI this year, Stone Cold #1, not shocking at all. Shawn though 49, and so, but these guys, Stone Cold was Wrestler of the Year. He was Best Interview of the Year. We were talking about MJF having that. Like Austin was the Best Interview, and so I got a lot on this one here. Austin captured the title as expected at WrestleMania 14. Although the 20-minute match was good, it was hampered by Michael's intense lower back pain, which surfaced halfway into the bout. Mike Tyson's involvement in the match was a bit anticlimactic, ending when he counted Michael's shoulders down and raised Austin's hand after the bout. We kind of know what happened at that point. When Michaels confronted Tyson after counting the pinfall, Tyson KO'd him with a punch. The entire event drew rave reviews in the Torch Reader poll, even though there arguably wasn't a match above 4 stars on the entire card. Not wrong. So, The crowd popped. Neither of the two slow motion camera angles showed whether Tyson actually missed or hit Michaels. Most of the match was great, but Michaels' back hampered the pacing in the second half. This match showed that Austin is a virtually full functioning wrestler again, which is amazing considering that he was close to retiring 6 months ago due to a severe neck injury. It's also so scary because he could take a wrong bump at any time, but he seems to be effectively avoiding the most high risk neck compression bumps the doctor told him are the most dangerous. That was PW Torch, the newsletter on this one. Not that the wrestling wasn't good, as it was solid, surprising in spots, and some very gutsy performances in others. But the show itself, tremendously well produced, almost designed to be 13 years after the original rebirth of the new look World Wrestling Federation and coronation of Steve Austin as the new Hulk Hogan, along with an attempt to become a symbolic ushering in a new hot period for pro wrestling. Of course, Austin realistically was given the spot as the WWF's top banana 1 year ago at WrestleMania. Ironically, in a match that he technically lost. And so the PW Torch gave this one 3 3/4 stars. Meltzer gave this one 3 1/4 stars. I know we've talked around it a little bit, Tom, but Tom, I'll let you go. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny because the only thing that wasn't like incredible was the actual match.
Right.
Like really good build, really interesting. The entrances, the stage, the crowd, Tyson, what this match meant, where it would go. So the only thing that keeps this from being like a 9 or a 10 is the fact that the match just wasn't great. I'm giving this an 8. I loved it. And again, the only thing that's hurting it is really just the match wasn't perfect.
If we could score this without the match, I'd give it a 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Which feels weird to say, but that's the reality of this one of like, the match almost like, yeah, but again, like we said, it didn't have to be good. Like it just had to get to the end goal at that point. And so I'm with you. I'm going to give it an 8 because I feel like, really deducting 2 points because of the match. Like if we didn't have to do it because of how we got here, what we got after the fact and the aftermath more than anything, like how do you not score it higher, And so I think that it's really the only way you can look at it as these guys went out there and put on a show for everybody and it was absolutely worth it. And then, we've talked about what came after and some of those matches, and we've talked about them a lot and the Attitude Era. And it's just, it changed wrestling. There's no other way to look at it.
Yep. I agree. It was fun.
Absolutely. I'm glad we covered this one on WrestleMania, week. Like finally we're here, big weekend, stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's just, enjoy your WrestleMania week. You got big plans for the show, Tom? What are you doing? I know we're both, neither of us are there. So what's your plans?
Just going to watch at home and it's take it all in, watch it probably live so I can be on Twitter. And that's kind of half the fun is just being able to do that. And yeah, what about you?
Same. I'm going to be recovering. I'm actually flying back at I land at 1 or 2 o'clock that afternoon. And so, I will literally get in and get home, share with everyone. I will take my pants off and end up on the couch. That is going to be my evening and order pizza and that'll be it. So just excited for wrestling. That's all you can be.
Hey, speaking of pizza, have you seen those home pizza ovens?
Home pizza ovens. I'm familiar with them. Yep.
Yeah, we're redoing our backyard. I think I'm going to buy one.
Are you?
Yeah, you leave them outside. It's you crank them up to 900. You make your pizza in a minute and a half. They're done.
Have you made a pizza before? Are you going to turn it into Chef Tom over here?
I want to. We're doing our backyard, and so I want to do a grill, a smoker, one of those things. And I wanted a pizza oven. And then that way, hey, here's a bunch of toppings, make your own pizza, you throw it in there. And I'll make my own pizza and I'll watch wrestling outside.
Look forward to in the second half of 2022, Tom's new podcast, The Pizza Payoff. And so, Tom reviewing his cooking exploits. This should be exciting. Good for you. That's exciting.
I'll fill everyone in. I'll post it on Twitter. By the way, I've been more active on my Payoff Tom than lately. I've been having a lot of fun with it. And, you know, in a few months, I'll tell you how sick I am of it. But for right now, I've been tweeting a lot, Jeff. I don't know how much time you spend on wrestling Twitter, but I've been having a lot of fun. Some really good conversations, good back and forth.
Yep.
You know, it's been a while since anyone's really pissed me off. Just fun interactions with a number of you. So I appreciate that. And it's a great little distraction, you know, from the stresses of life and work and everything else.
I usually clip it on if there's a show happening, just so I'm kind of curious what's going on there and what everybody's saying. And we've got our timeline. Ours is pretty nice with just wrestlers. So it's always fun to see what other wrestlers are saying about wrestling and stuff like that. So that's always good stuff. And so, yeah, but expect to see us. We got lots of course, we haven't talked about it. There'll be lots of Manscaped ads to remind everyone this week of on our social media of that code. Of course, you all know it. Payoff 20, manscaped.com, free shipping and 20% off the entire store. Absolutely. Make sure to check that out. You know, retweet our ads, all that good stuff. We got lots of graphics going up this week and things like that. Just to celebrate WrestleMania, because this is our Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl of wrestling. This is the World Cup, whatever you want to call it. It's just a fun week. I'm excited.
It's still real to me, damn it.
It's still real to me, damn it. Yep.
All right. We'll see you. Enjoy WrestleMania. We'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.